Hi, Mr. Maskey. Everybody, this is Mr. Maskey, the pandemic mask. Hi, Cody. Hi, everybody. I love you and I want to keep you safe. But, Cody, why do so many people hate me? Because, Mr. Maskey, even though there's a global pandemic, our government doesn't care if we live or die, and wearing masks has become a partisan issue, so some people would rather give everyone's grandma COVID to own the libs than to be cucked by a piece of fabric that can save lives. Oh, well, that's f***ing stupid. It sure is, Mr. Maskey. Now you go get on someone's face and save some lives while I talk about the news. Well, in these trying times, we are desperately looking for some responsible leadership. As it turns out, Trump, the guy who called Mexicans rapists and put children in cages, actually doesn't care that much about what happens to people in a pandemic.
We have tested almost 40 million people. By so doing, we show cases, 99% of which are totally harmless.
That's not true. We're approaching 3 million cases in the United States. There have been about 130,000 fatalities here in the United States. The hospitalization rate alone is close to 20% cumulatively over the 6 months or so of the pandemic.
Whoopsie duper! The guy who said he could shoot a guy on Fifth Avenue and not lose a single vote is not a good person, and in fact, doesn't care if we live or die. Shocking! Weird! More at 11. What we need right now is a knight in shining armor to come save us from Donald Trump. No, it's not the enraged masses or all the protesters or an overwhelming population of rightfully angry voters. We need leadership, guidance. We need an adult in the room. We need the Lincoln Project. The Lincoln Project is a group of extremely concerned conservatives who, gosh darn it, and shucks, are sick and tired of the Trump fellow.
The Lincoln Project, launched today and formed by several of Trump's fiercest conservative critics, has already raised over $1 million in its pursuit to defeat Donald Trump in the next election.
They are doing tougher ads against Trump than any Democratic group. Here is tonight's latest effort.
Something's wrong with Donald Trump. He's shaky, weak, trouble speaking, trouble walking. So why aren't we talking about this?
Those who are lost now, their legacy must be our lives.
I can hear you, and the people who knock these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
Amazing grace.
I am dispatching thousands and thousands of heavily armed soldiers.
That last one was from the Lincoln Project.
And by the way, all of those people who set those ads, and those ads are set to air in Wisconsin, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Michigan, it bears repeating, every one of them, not only Republicans, but Republicans who, at least the ones that I know that are involved in there, worked on Republican campaigns, spent their adult life promoting Republican candidates.
The Lincoln Project describes themselves thusly. The founders of the Lincoln Project have spent over 200 years electing Republicans, but now they've sparked a nationwide movement with a singular mission: to defeat Donald Trump and Trumpism. Now, given that the Lincoln Project was founded in 2019 by people who were alive in 2019, they're apparently time-traveling Republicans too. Like, obviously they meant collectively. They've been doing it for like 200 years if you add them all together. But like, come on, guys. Like, what do you, like, give me a break. Okay. I don't want to look a gift Lincoln in the mouth. Trump is a monster who might destroy us all. Ha 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 ha. Oof. And if the Lincoln Project wants to spend a chunk of money on ads against him, who am I to clutch my lefty pearls? It's a good thing if they're able to convince some Republicans to not vote for Trump, or even to vote against him. Besides, the Lincoln Project has some pretty decent positions, like that it's bad for the government to kidnap people off the streets using jackbooted thugs, and that we shouldn't be killing people with COVID. They've called Mitch McConnell out for being a vaguely human-shaped slug monster. They've made cool boner jokes, and they've praised Ronald Reagan, citing him as an inspiration for their work, and thanked George W. Bush for the bare minimum in anti-racism. So, haha, but wait, what? These hip and cool Republicans 2.0 still revere Ronald trickle-down tax cuts for the wealthy apartheid South Africa supporting racist dog-whistling murderers contra-funding Reagan, and George blood-soaked war in Iraq and Afghanistan that killed at least 500,000 people that was all based on a lie, Bush? Well, maybe the folks running the Lincoln Project are some good-hearted conservatives who simply don't know any better, who missed the memo about the nearly decades-long wars in the Middle East, all the torture we did. We should probably let the Lincoln Project know that their heroes did a few mass murderous whoopsie-daisies. I'm sure they'd be shocked to hear it. Let's talk to Ben Howe, the Lincoln Project's video whiz. I'm sure he'll be upset to hear about all the murders and stuff. Ben? Oh, well, okay. Well, here he is coming in with the pro-murder hot take in 2014. Sorry, pro-self-defense hot take after he tweeted, referring to the police shooting of an unarmed black man in Ferguson. Give me a gun. Put me in Darren Wilson's shoes. I'd have shot Mike Brown right in his face. I said black man, he's a kid. Shot a kid, dead anyway. Well, he doesn't speak for the whole organization, and they kicked him out when old tweets where he called people the C word came out. So let's talk to one of the Lincoln Project's prominent founders, Steve Schmidt. Steve, guess what, bud? The Lincoln Project tweeted out, Dick Cheney, welcome to the resistance, just because he wears a face mask. But Steve, did you know that Dick Cheney was the architect of an illegal war that killed at least 500,000 people and lied about torture being effective so he could keep torturing people? Oh, silly me, you probably do know that because you're that Steve Schmidt, the guy who worked for Cheney as deputy assistant to President George W. Bush and counselor to Vice President Cheney and helped run their re-election campaign. Any good hits from Rick Wilson, also of the Lincoln Project and lifelong Republican operative, paid to lie about and attack the party he is currently trying to influence? Oh, lots of them? Cool. So these are the very thoughtful, good decision makers involved with the Lincoln Project. Now, I might be accused of purity testing or thinking that just because they supported previous criminal presidents doesn't mean we shouldn't be thankful they don't support this criminal president. But actually, I am thankful they're coming out against Trump. I think it's swell. I hope their ads help beat Trump in November. I hope Trump himself after losing on national TV, and that he's held accountable for at least one of his many, many crimes, and maybe gets put in jail for, all his fascist hobbies, and how his negligence in the face of the coronavirus pandemic has killed over 100,000 people in the US. Maybe we could do that. That'd be cool. But after that, I hope we never hear from the Lincoln Project again. Because their morals seem to amount to, we support murderous presidents, but we like polite, folksy ones, and for them to kill people in other countries, not in America itself. Come on, folks, get on board with the project. But you know that that's not going to be the case. The Lincoln Project, and all the never-Trump conservatives, won't just meekly accept that their brand of republicanism is actually what created Donald Trump. They won't sheepishly fade into the background, suddenly realizing the follies of their ways. In fact, they'll just use their new position of being friendly with Democrats and the resistance to try to push them further to the right. In fact, they've been getting a lot of positive attention from the liberal resistance, like from MSNBC. Here's a montage by the Colbert Report in a real chill interview they had with Lincoln Project's Rick Wilson.
I don't give money to political organizations. I've given money to Lincoln Project because of ads like this.
The Lincoln Project is like watching a Jay-Z Nas rap battle. I mean, they don't let up on this president.
I want the Democrats to pay attention to the Lincoln Project. They're doing a superb job.
The Lincoln Project, those are good commercials.
Rick, how rewarding is it to win over the people you've demonized your entire career?
The result will probably be something similar to what this analysis on 538 found about Never-Trumpers back in May. That Never-Trumpers are increasingly involved in the Democratic Party and have gradually shifted their tactics in that direction, effectively becoming a Never-Trump and Never-Bernie Sanders coalition. And they appear to be having more success shaping their new party than the one that many of them had been associated with for much of their lives. According to the analysis, Never-Trump conservatives have entrenched themselves in the Democratic Party by becoming overrepresented in the media, by allying with centrist Democrats, and by forming a faction in the Democratic Party that may actually be able to sway Democrats to the right. And hey, it's very intentional. A leading Never-Trump activist, frequent MSNBC guest, director of Republican Voters Against Trump, and cool dude who worked on Jeb Bush's campaign, Tim Miller, bragged about what he claimed was the Never-Trumper influence over the election. Sorry, let me be more specific. Over the Democratic primary election. Miller said, one group that really mattered in the primaries were the high information voters, the people who watch MSNBC, listen to The Daily. A lot of these people went from Harris to Warren to Buttigieg and finally landed on Biden. For these voters, it was all an assessment of who could defeat Trump. For them, we Never-Trumpers have a unique experience and insight. Counterpoint on Never-Trumpers having a unique insight on who can defeat Trump? This photo. Followed by this photo. Another Never-Trumper, former CIA operative, former Republican, and independent in the 2016 presidential campaign, Evan McMullin said, quote, "Our message before and during the early primary elections was that principled conservatives and Republicans were a winnable bloc and could provide the decisive votes in general election swing states as long as Democrats didn't nominate a divisive far-left candidate. Appropriately, Democratic voters prioritized replacing Trump in 2020 above other issues." Now, we don't know if the claims the Never-Trumpers are making that they influenced the Democratic primary are true, but we do know they were featured heavily on MSNBC. And literally, here's Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer giving away the entire game.
For every blue-collar Democrat we will lose in Western PA, we will pick up 2-3 moderate Republicans in the suburbs of Philadelphia. And you can repeat that in Ohio and Illinois and Wisconsin.
Now, the problem with this is, well, there are actually a few problems, dozens possibly, but here are at least a couple. First is that the Never-Trump elites, such as the founders of the Lincoln Project, aren't the same as regular voters who are turning against Trump, whether they're independents, Republicans, or former Trump voters. Independents tend to be more anti-establishment, according to Pew Research, who found that independents feel more negatively about political candidates and parties than partisans. So you can't assume that the extremely establishment Republican Lincoln Project actually represents independent voters, especially independents who possibly voted for Trump in 2016 in a misguided attempt to pick a political outsider, who now might feel duped. Because they were. In fact, the Lincoln Project even admits that it's only trying to turn out a single-digit percentage of the electorate of Republicans, Republican-leaning independents against Trump, which is, it's fine. But maybe we should reconsider how much influence we should give them over the Democratic Party. Like how our Never-Trumper friend Tim Miller hopes Biden doesn't listen to the left, saying, quote, "I don't want him, Biden, to make crazy sacrifices to the left that he doesn't need to make." Cool, Tim Miller. Why should we care about what you want? Your party created Donald Trump. And because you're a very smart boy, you want Democrats to listen to you and become the new, hip Republican Party that still does wars and f***s over poor people, but at least does it without a fake tan? The Lincoln Project spends most of its money on themselves, but the part that they spend on the actual operation, it's mostly like online ads. Not a lot of TV ads targeting folks in Wisconsin or Michigan, because the goal here, the project, is to ingratiate themselves with the liberal elites, get their money, and yes, Trump bad, no more Trump. But when Trump gone, more things that led to Trump. Because another problem, like a real problem with the never-Trumpers and anti-Trump Republicans infiltrating the Dems, is that it makes all of them focus on the corruption and bizarreness and cruelty of Trump the guy, as opposed to what he says and does, and the racist, imperialist, American superiority ideology that fuels him and led to him. It's all about trolling him and attacking Trump's character instead of looking at Trump the symptom and communicating to voters why his American fascism is bad and what we can do for people as a way of combating it. To do this would require introspection from the Republicans definitely, but also Biden and the Dems. They can't and won't do this because it would mean admitting profound faults in the status quo that they're not prepared or willing to change. Basically, the Lincoln Group and other never-Trumpers want to set the bar of morality to polite criminal murderer presidents. They object to orange reality show presidents who ignore a pandemic, killing hundreds of thousands, but not charming jelly bean eating presidents who ignore a pandemic, killing hundreds of thousands. And surely, we can't set the bar of human decency to murdered and tortured people, but hey, at least he gave some candy to Michelle Obama. And I'm not saying both sides bad, why even bother? Because I definitely think Trump needs to be voted out of office. Because he is, in fact, an incompetent psychopath who doesn't care if we live or die. And who is kidnapping people in Portland, all during an election year. So who knows what kinds of fun, fascist tomfoolery he'll get up to when he's not theoretically being held accountable by voters. Call me a hopeless optimist, but I feel like we shouldn't have to choose between polite war criminals and full-blown fascism. If that makes me a cucked, loony lefty, so be it. What do you think, Mr. Maskey?
Fascism! COVID! For God's sake, people, I'm trying to save you from a disease! Put me on your face! For the love of God! I had to sit on Dick Cheney's sweaty face! Do you know what it's like to protect people from the mouth of a war criminal with no pulse? I let you spit on me all day to save your grandparents from a horrible death! Wear me, you cowards!
Thanks, Mr. Maskey.
My favorite spit has been from Tom Hanks. He's a national treasure.
Ain't that the truth? The end. Go take a shower. You disgust me. Thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure to like and subscribe. Leave a comment that's nice or mean. Who cares? We've got a podcast called Even More News. We've got a Patreon if you'd like to support us. We've also got a new channel, some more news clips for little snippets of our hour-long episodes if you'd like to watch those. Thanks, and that's the end of this sentence.